Prince Al-Hassan bin Talal, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great honor to me to welcome all of you here to the University of Jordan for the opening ceremony of the 90th International Bitra School of Physics, under the patronage of His Royal Highness Prince Al-Hassan bin Talal. The school is organized by the University of Jordan and Yarmouk University and co-sponsored by the International Center of Theoretical Physics. We shall start our ceremony by listening to verses from the Holy Book of Quran recited by Dr. Nuh Al-Fadul.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم تبارك الذي جعل في السماء بروجا وجعل فيها سراجا وقمرا منيرا وهو الذي جعل الليل والنهار خلفة لمن أراد أن يذكر أو أراد شكورا وعباد الرحمن الذين يمشون على الأرض هونا وإذا خاطبهم الجاهلون قالوا سلاما والذين يبيتون لربهم سجدا وقياما والذين يقولون ربنا اصرف عنا عذاب جهنم إن عذابها كان غراما والذين إذا أنفقوا لم يسرفوا ولم يقتروا وكان بين ذلك قواما صدق الله العظيم.
Your Royal Highness, ladies and gentlemen, in order to be a good teachers and researchers in physics, we must always be students. This should be the spirit of a good physicist, to be a permanent student of science, because in science the absolute truths of today are always relative truths of tomorrow. The Bitra School of Physics carries that spirit in its structure and format since the foundation in 1980. And the ninth school should provide us the chance to be taught about the state of art of research in the physics of nano-structured material from both theoretical and application points of view. Please welcome Professor Mahmoud Hussain, the chairman of the organizing committee of the 9th International Bitra School of Physics.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على النبي العربي الأمين سيدنا محمد عليه الصلاة والسلام. Your Royal Highness Prince Al-Hassan bin Talal, President of the University of Jordan, President of Yarmouk University, distinguished invited speakers and participants, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. It's my pleasure to welcome you all to the opening ceremony for 9th International Bitra School of Physics. I'm really very happy to see you all. The Bitra School was founded in 1981 by His Royal Highness Prince Al-Hassan bin Talal and the late Professor Abd Salam, together with dedicated, I see some of them here today, Humam Wasim and Professor Ahmed Salim, from universities of Jordan and Yarmouk. They recognized early the need for a platform for a knowledge exchange and scientific discussions among Jordanian scientists, first of all, and their peers in the region and in the international scientific community. The school aims to disseminate advanced physics at international level in order to stimulate scientific research in Jordan and in neighboring countries. It is usually sponsored by both the University of Jordan and Yarmouk University and co-sponsored by the International Center for Theoretical Physics, ICTP. Bit of history now. Previous editions of the Petra School were held between 1982 till 2016, as shown in this transparency. And I must here gratefully acknowledge the instrumental role of Prince Al-Hassan in organizing all these editions of Petra School, including this 9th one. Your Royal Highness, we are really indebted to the support, encouragement, and enthusiasm you have given us. Coming now to this edition of Petra School, the purpose of this 9th edition of the school is to present the state of art of research in the physics of nanomaterials from both theoretical and application points of view. Royal Highness, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very pleased to welcome today our distinguished invited speakers who will share their expertise and latest research in many fields of nanoscience. If you allow me, now I will briefly introduce them in alphabetical order with all due respect. First, we have Professor David Troubled. He is distinguished professor in condensed matter and in particular in theoretical nanophysics. He is from Ohio University, physics department. Then we have Professor, I'm very glad that Professor Fazio is representing the ICTP, and we are really glad to have him here. He is the head of condensed matter group at the ICTP, and he's also an expert in theoretical nanophysics, and he will, as you will see in his 2 lectures. Then we have an old friend of Jordan, Professor Richard Forbes. He's an international leading figure in electron emission and nanomachines. He's from Surrey University from the UK. Then we are also particularly pleased to welcome Professor Raslan Hashim from Saints University, Malaysia. He's also an experimentalist. He's a leading figure in experimentalist nanostructure, especially in semiconductors. And then, of course, we have Professor Naifer. I think I've seen him somewhere here. Sorry, Professor Naifer. I think I need to say nothing about Professor Naifer. You know Professor Naifer more than I. He's a leading international figure in terms of nanoscience, and he's also, I would call him Jordanian. Not a friend of Jordan, but he is a Jordanian in Jordan. So we are very glad to have you here today, Professor Naifer. Also, particularly pleased to have to see today with us Professor Malik Tabbal from the AUB in Lebanon. I'm so pleased to have you, Professor Tabbal. And he's also an experimentalist, and he will be talking about many fancy stuff in terms of applications in the nanoscience and nanotechnology. We're also very glad to welcome you, Professor Yashiba, all the way from Japan. So we're really grateful to see you here to tell us something about your latest research in terms of ceramics and structural crystallography. All has to do with nano characterization at the nanoscale. So I'm very pleased to have you all. Okay. The school covers the following topics: theoretical physics of nanostructures, nanomaterials and their applications in medicine, energy, and in new materials. Nanoscience and engineering constitute the basis for many potential breakthrough applications, There is already a large number of materials and technologies which are classified as nano. They can provide solutions to several great challenges facing humanity. Your Royal Highness, ladies and gentlemen, here in Jordan, although we have a reasonably good number of scientists working in the field of nanoscience and technology, we are still in the very early stages of this field. At least this is my personal. In appreciation of the importance of this field, I'm pleased to inform you that the University of Jordan initiated a new Center for Nanotechnology last year. Moreover, the Higher Council for Science and Technology has concrete plans to establish a national nanotechnology center, as I gathered from Professor Khalid Shaibi. I believe that the intellectual potential we have in this field can be well used to pave the way to establish an economy based in knowledge and innovative technologies rather than natural resources, which might help us to overcome the economic difficulties and scarcity of natural resources that we face in Jordan. I know this has been said many times, but I sincerely hope that a real change will happen soon. Your Royal Highness, ladies and gentlemen, we are pleased to have around 130 participants. This is an unprecedented number for this, at least as far as I know. Maybe please correct me for that. From Palestine, Egypt, Lebanon, and Jordan. The first 2 days of the school will be held here in the campus of the University of Jordan, Amman, while the third day will be held at Yarmouk University. In the final day, all guest speakers and participants will be invited to the historic city of Petra, after which the school was named. Let me also welcome all participants, hoping that your participation will become a valuable and fruitful experience for all of you. The school also gives the opportunity to graduate students and young researchers to attend lectures on emerging fields in nanoscience in both introductory and advanced level, and also to present their own work in this international forum. I urge all participants to use this unique opportunity to interact with invited speakers and to forge new networks. As you all know, interaction between scientists is highly important, not only for science itself, but it also helps to overcome political conflicts and misunderstandings. Before closing, we would like to thank you, Your Royal Highness, for being with us today and for your continuous support, and each of you, our invited speakers, for attending the school and bringing your expertise and guidance to this gathering. I would also like to take this opportunity to gratefully acknowledge the ICTP for continuing the fruitful and generous sponsorship for the school. I have to extend further thanks to Professor Abdul Karim Al-Qab, the President of the University of Jordan, of course, Professor Zidan Kafafi, the President of the University, Professor Fuad Kittan, our Dean of the School of Science, Professor Sami Mahmoud, our ex-dean, Faculty of Science, honorable members of the Advisory Committee, and last but not least, my colleagues, which I am very proud of, in the organizing committee for their diligent work during the preparation of this edition of Petra School. In closing, I hope that all participants of the school will take this opportunity to broaden their basic and application knowledge in nanoscience and nanotechnologies, to advance networking and collaboration, and our visitors from abroad will have a very pleasant stay in Jordan. I would like to end my speech today by quoting some of what Professor Abdul Salam wrote in a message he sent on the occasion of inauguration of the first Petra school. As you see it here, may the impeccable design of Petra inspire one generation after another to emulate their ancestors who were once the scientific and intellectual leaders of mankind. Thank you, Your Royal Highness. Thank you.
Through the past 8 Petra schools, there have been lots of memories. In this following short video, we share some of those memories from the 3rd Petra school held in 1985.
profound lecture about theatre and communication. May I ask Dr. Ram to take let me start off by saying what a great honour it is for me to be chosen to give this lecture for Your Highness, and let me also take this opportunity to say thank you to the organisers of this school for arranging such an efficient and scientifically and technically useful session. I must also add my personal thanks here. I came to Jordan with my wife, and we both had a very enjoyable time touring around the country. We've taken a week out to see all the sites here and doing most of them. And everywhere we've been met by great hospitality and kindness on the part of people. And I can really say this is the most regular country that I've travelled in that sense. Okay, well, it came as somewhat of a surprise to me that I will be giving this little lecture on communication to such a distinguished guest. And I felt that I perhaps should restructure the introduction to the lecture slightly to put the topic in the technical and economic perspective. I should also say that I have tried to get quite a lot of physics content into this lecture, since this is a physics summer school. And so you must excuse me if I lecture develops, we physicists again involved in deep technicalities. But I think perhaps to start with I should introduce the topic in a more general way. And let's first of all have a look at
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's now a great pleasure and honor for me to introduce His Royal Highness.
Gentlemen, to those of you who are visitors to Amman for the first time, welcome, and for those of you who have participated in previous schools of Petra physics, I just want to suggest to you that in this coming session we take full recognition of the fact that one of us, Dr. Muhammad Hamdan, has been elected Vice President of the Third World Academy of Science. So congratulations to you. In terms of the task ahead of us, ahead of you, I'm just a layman. I would like to remind you of the fact, and remind myself, that quantum is the Latin word for amount, and in modern understanding means the smallest possible discrete use of any physical property, such as energy and matter. My question is, will we have the commitment this time round to make a greater footprint or imprint on the national priorities of this small country? I think it was Francis Bacon who said something along the lines of, Idealism is to thought what politics are to will. And in a sense, the world of nano is a world of a certain specialized idealism if it is not fully appreciated in terms of its uses. And I don't need to recount its uses to you, but I would like to suggest maybe that I refer to those areas which this country and this region might benefit from. I'd just like to tell a story. When I say region, the other day I received the director of the Hebrew University, Mr. Sasson, which will raise some eyebrows here. But why raise eyebrows? After all, we do have the Sesame project here, which includes all nationalities of this region, including Iran and Israel. And I find it very interesting that if at the level of science we can talk to each other, why it is that there is such a national limitation on the discussion of regional commons. In particular, I'd like to point out that when I had the privilege of chairing the Club of Rome years ago, we suggested Desert Tech to take the sunshine from the Gulf all the way across North Africa to Europe, particularly to the vulnerable and marginalized communities, which I think would have been a tremendous step in preventive diplomacy. Maybe we need preventive nanotechnology. And sadly today I see this solar initiative developing into two solar cities in the Gulf, one Masdar and one Sidra in the UAE and in Qatar. Sadly, I see Jordanians being trained in the field of nuclear energy, largely to serve in the Gulf countries. And till this day, I have not had a prioritizing of the national priorities of Jordan. I'm still waiting for the government, this government, the last government, the government before, etc. I represent Track 2, I chair the Science and Technology Council, but I still want to know what Track 1 has in mind in terms of serving the national priority of understanding that Jordan is central to this region and that crises do not read maps. Jordan of 2.5 million to 3 million people in the early 90s is now Jordan of 10.5 million people. In fact, if you'd like the breakdown, in this region there are 5.2 million Syrians, refugees, 5.2 million nationals of Jordan, and 5.2 million Palestinians. So isn't it time that we looked at this humanity in terms of enabling and empowering for citizenship? That means enabling and empowering with knowledge, not only with the 5 essentials: water, food, health, education, and habitat. The current drawback in the use of solar cells, for example, is the high cost of manufacturing, we're told. The efficiency of solar energy absorption is also currently poor. Less than 40% of the absorbed energy converted into electrical energy. Carbon nanotubes have been used to make solar cells lighter, cheaper, and more efficient. The increased surface area to volume ratio of nanoparticles enhances solar radiation collection by exposing more conducting surfaces to solar radiation. Our sadness is, my sadness is, that we speak of projects. We do not speak of a concept. The concept, I think, of making severe inroads in the excessive expenditure on energy as a region requires a breakthrough which is not only technical, but also a breakthrough relating to our will to get the job done. Nanotechnology is also improving the efficiency of windmills, another major contribution to our energy bill. Could be reduced by carbon nanotubes which are used to make stronger and lighter windmill blades, resulting in longer blades which increase the amount of electricity generated by such windmills. I think the acceptance of this kind of thinking in terms of territoriality is also very important. You can't just go to a certain area, as many of the projects that are being set up all over the country, and say, I have decreed that these windmills should be erected on ground which belonged for thousands of years to herders of livestock. As far as livestock is concerned, it may interest you to know that maybe we have one more generation left where we can talk about nomads. The fact is that science and technology in the form of GM foods, in the form of soya, in the form of imported foodstuffs, has already made heavy inroads into a traditional way of life. We used to say رحلة الشتاء والصيف, the journey of winter and summer, which was the normal rotation for grazing. Unfortunately today, when we speak of geothermal energy generation, for example, which is also enhanced by nanotechnology, I'd like to point out that nanotechnology can help to make geothermal energy more practical by allowing efficient energy production closer to the surface and at lower temperatures. My question then is, why is it with the predictions years ago that a slim bore well could actually produce solar energy from steam from solar energy? Why is it that we have not taken a decision? Why are we lagging in decision making? In one session in the Petra School of Physics, it's not all bad news, I had the privilege of attending a conversation about what to me was something new, fiber optics. In one decision by the government, we stopped coaxial cables and went into fiber optics. And I just wonder whether this kind of one-off is really a one-off, or whether thought and the execution, the implementation of thought is not possible. In March last year, 2017, Jordan hosted the World Science Forum. I would ask the university and the organizers to make the recommendations of the World Science Forum of last year available to the participants, particularly in the relevant areas. Next year, Hungary will be hosting 2019, the next Science Forum under the all-important title Ethics, Science and Technology. Ethics, ladies and gentlemen. Is there an ethic of innovation that we share? Are we all providing new ideas for companies to snaffle up and to implement projects which are more of the same, more volunteerism, less broadening of the pie, the national, economic and social pie? Sheets of nanotubes have been used to build thermal cells that generate electricity when the sides of the cells are at different temperature, By wrapping these nanotube sheets around hot pipes such as the exhaust pipe of cars, electricity can be generated from heat that is usually wasted. Researchers at the University of Science and Technology in China developed a new catalyzer with platinum nanoparticles as the raw material. The catalyzer converted the main greenhouse carbon dioxide, into liquid methanol. This helps mitigate the greenhouse effect caused by carbon emissions and promote the development of new clean energies. I quote Nature Nanotechnology 2018. Solar Botanic Limited interested me. It is a company which used eco-friendly plastic trees and made use of harvesting renewable energy from the sun with wind power through nanotechnology. The art of the fake plastic tree to solar power. Photovoltaic cells are incorporated in the nano leaves which capture sunlight and converts it to electricity. The company claims offering 50% more energy than traditional water systems. I think that what we have in terms of waste plastic all over Jordan, they say the national flower of Jordan is a plastic bag, is something worth revisiting. And I would suggest to you that as you drive to and from Petra, you look aside when you see the huge quantities of waste, of rubbish. In terms of electrical energy transmission, wires containing carbon nanotubes have significantly higher electrical conductivity than the wires currently used in the electric transmission grid. We don't have ministers here unless they want to participate. I don't know if we even have any former ministers. So you can see the divide between, I won't say the haves and the have-nots, because you in many senses are the haves. You have the knowledge, you have the thought. You are the people who should be empowering and enabling the general public. But I do feel that when we talk about identity, we're living in the past. Because our identity is no longer 3 million or 5.2 million people. It is an identity which means closing the gaps in social equity and justice between a carrying capability which obviously is outdated and unable to shoulder the responsibility ahead, and the carrying capacity which has to be proven. Otherwise, as one speaker cheerfully taught us the other day, the question of Palestine has become a question of 2 chairs and 3 participants in this game of musical chairs: Jordan, Palestine, and Israel. And who are the 2 who are going to sit at these chairs? This was said by a professor from Oxford the other day in the hearing of a large crowd of Jordanians who sat until 1 o'clock in the morning, mesmerized by the new Byzantine intrigues. People say to us, why has Mr. Netanyahu not spoken in the last few months? Well, I don't think he has anything more to say, because after all, we're all doing it for him. We Arabs are killing each other. We Arabs are involved in polarity of hatred rather than plurality of mutual respect, and developing creative commons together. I'm talking about creative commons. I'm talking about policies, not politics. The global nanotechnology market, the worldwide reviews of nanotechnology-enabled products currently in 2018, as you may know, is about $3.7 trillion. The global nanotechnology market is expected to grow at around 18.1% over the next decade to reach approximately $200 billion by 2025. We keep reiterating, as His Majesty King Abdullah II has said in establishing the Center for Nanotechnology, that it is one of the most important scientific research priorities for Jordan. And yet, does a research priority become a national priority simply by wishing it to be so, or do we create a critical mass who can create the change that we desire and hope to see? I'd like to thank my colleague Dr. Munir Naifer from Urbana-Champaign, who has been loyal to this cause of enabling with nanotechnology. And I hope that whatever our perspectives, and I haven't touched on medicine, food and agriculture, I would like to mention that I have been asked by the World Food Programme to be the convener of a zero hunger campaign for Jordan. I would like to mention that this means revising the whole system. If the National Aid Fund reached a certain percentage, which I won't mention here, of needy families in the past, today the National Aid Fund has to relate to the carrying capacity of Jordan. As I told you yesterday, or whenever we met, a few weeks ago, I went to visit the sheep of Jordan. And I don't mean the 2-legged sheep, I mean the 4-legged sheep. The Awasi sheep. The gene pool of the Jordanian Awasi is superb. Thank you, the National Center for Agricultural Research in Baqa, for having developed this gene pool and preserved it. That's the good news. The bad news, as I said, is that the territoriality of our livestock is decreasing exponentially with the absence of zoning and commitment to a genuine management program of information base, physical, human, and economic. The National Information Center, the National Information System, a regional information system of the name are in abeyance. If you look at Israel and the occupied territories, every inch, every millimeter has been studied and restudied above and below the ground. We, unfortunately, are sitting caught in the headlights of politics and find that as an excuse not to do anything. I strongly recommend that when we talk about space advancements in nanomaterials, produce lighter weight materials. One of the biggest problems in Jordan is the traffic. Somebody once said to me, well, the Israeli Defense Force can be in Amman in a matter of minutes. I said, well, have they taken into consideration the traffic jams in Amman? I know nothing that I'm saying here will get out of this room other than through you. And some of it will be covered with your interpretations. But I don't mind. The time has come to tell the truth to each other, to say that we simply cannot continue the way we are. Improved air quality. If you look at Amman today with that black cloud over it, every single morning, all we do is to say, well, thank goodness for the prevailing westerly wind. But as we look at the recommendations of the United Nations panel on climate change, let us be aware of the fact that the westerly wind that usually brings us rain is actually going to be in jeopardy, like we all are, if the predictions of global warming go beyond the expected 2%. The fact is that by 2030, nothing dramatically seems to be changing. So, what is the good news in this part of the world? I like to think, going back to that word, ethics, that maybe, just maybe, we can revisit the Jordanian ethic of getting up and doing something positive after wars. And let's not pretend that we don't know what wars are.
From Italy. Professor Richard Forbes from Surrey University, United Kingdom. Professor Roslan bin Hashim, University of Saint Malaysia.
Absolutely delighted. So, please don't let it close on your fingers.
Professor Munir Naifel, University of Illinois, Professor Malik Tafal, American University of Beirut, Lebanon.
Distinguished, you wanted to listen to every word, and extinguished, you don't know when to stop talking.
Professor Masatomo Yashima, Tokyo Institute of Technology, Japan.
Thank you for your partnership of generation. Thank you so much. That's very good of you to say. Come from here and from here.
Professor Abdul Karim Atla, President of the University of Jordan. Professor Zidan Kafafi, President of Yarmouk University. And now, the President of the University of Jordan is honored to hand to his higher to His Royal Highness Prince Hassan bin Talal, the Shield of the State.